Hello, 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 and welcome to day two of Galfond Challenge number two-ish. It's Phil Galfond versus Action Freak. I'm David Tuchman. Joining me today is Runchuks. How are you, Runchuks?
I'm good. Thanks. Really
We are
glad to be
here.
here. Really excited.
Yeah, we're playing 150, 300 euro heads-up PLO. These players slated to play 15,000 hands when it's all said and done. They played yesterday, but it was an abbreviated session because of some faulty internet issues.
And they're scheduled to play 5 hours every day, right?
That is the schedule right now,
Right.
yes. So we'll see how that plays out. Hopefully that continues. Obviously we saw things change during the Veni Vidi match, which seemed to last, forever. Which I mean we loved, right? We all were huge fans of that. It was so much fun. 26,800 over on table number two. Board pairs, spades get there. Did you get a chance to watch the first match with them? These two players, the first
Unfortunately
session
not.
yesterday.
I logged in and then Action Freak had his internet problems, so I couldn't see. I was too late to join. The match was over, basically.
Right. Once again, Runchuks, David Tuchman here to call the action. Thanks for joining us. Phil Galfond wins that pot over on table number two. You'll see the players are obviously buying in for more as the blinds are 150, 300. So we should see some bigger pots. Bigger pots, usually more exciting, right? So strap yourself in. It should be a fun next 5 hours. For those of you who did miss yesterday, I kind of tuned in a little bit and watched. Yesterday, I thought was kind of interesting in the sense that we saw a lot of like huge hero calls by both players. Action Freak's graph is scary good.
They're playing a check raise on the table on the right. So let's see that play out. Potentially a big pot here.
Yeah, it feels like every single pot is potentially big. I'm gonna have to get my mind rewired. I was so used to the 11.99s, the 35.99s, figuring out what things are. Now that we're playing 150, 300, obviously my mind has to get rewired. Another 20,000 euro pot over on table number two. Five of hearts on the turn. Tilt Shove asks where we can see the Action Freak graph. Actually, Galfond tweeted it. He retweeted, I think, Chris George's tweet. 29.5 in there now. Flush gets there. Straight flush gets there. Thank you, Moonlight Master. Moonlight Master on the ball. Dude, Moonlight, you're the best. Thank you so much. Yeah, he put it in the graph actually. He put it in the chat. You can click on that little tweet. Wow, Galfond, 29,000. He bets pot. Pot is 59,000. 15,000 to call. So pot is technically only 45. Still though, Action Freak does fold.
So actually, if we think about it in terms of proportion towards the stakes, that side bet is not not that big, to be honest. Right? We're bound to see some 100k pots throughout the challenge, and the side bet is 150. Still adds excitement, but it's not as big of a deal anymore.
Yeah, it's funny. The side bet in the Veni Vidi challenge, compared to what they were playing for, I mean, considering the fact that we had a €1,000,000 swing up and down, or down and then up, depending on who you are. 13,300 over there on table number two, eight of clubs on the turn. I felt like the side bet wasn't that big. I mean, 100 versus 200, yet just the gamesmanship, the competitive nature in all of us. At the end of it all, it wasn't really, it became more than just the money.
Absolutely, yeah.
Action Freak bets 8,800 on the eight of clubs turn.
And also that side bet the way. All right, let's see what happens here on the river. I
Yeah,
would
that's a
assume
blank. Well, 5-3
action
got
is
there, I
gonna.
guess.
Well, it's sort of a blank. Yeah, a wheel came, but let's see this play out.
Actionfreak
Oh, quick
goes with it,
call.
and there is the 5-3. Look at that.
Yeah.
Stay even. By the way, the Bill Perkins match has already started, but because of Bill Perkins' availability, internet issues, COVID-19, all of the various things that are going on in the world right now and in Bill Perkins' life, that match is kind of like sporadic. So they have played twice. The first session, Bill Perkins won very small amount. The next session, Galfond won 90,000. So he's up about 90,000 just 2 sessions in. I don't imagine this Actionfreak challenge to do that, though. I think they're just going to kind of steamroll through 15,000 hands. We'll see how long it takes. Galfond up over 6 figures on table number 2. We were used to seeing 40K pots, maybe some 50 and a few 60K pots. Get used to seeing a lot bigger ones here.
Dave, do you know if they are gonna reset the stack sizes as well?
I don't
Every
know.
time they reach 200 big blinds, is it gonna be?
Let's find out from Run It Once Nick. He's on top of all these things. We'll see exactly. I would imagine that each and every challenge has some unique rules, depending on what the players want. But obviously, the Veni Vidi, they were allowed to reset anytime they were 200 big blinds effective. Wondering what is the case here? I don't know, but we'll see if we can figure that one out. Another big pot, 63,000 for Phil Galfond. Galfond now starting to really cruise here. Actionfreak, though, apparently does have a Twitter account, and he's already painted himself as somebody who it's going to be difficult to villainize, as he comes out and says, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing here, the reason I got good at poker is because Phil Galfond was my hero, and I looked up to him, and I wanted to be like that. So hard to villainize somebody like that. So this should be a lot of fun. Maltbeat says
indeed.
the fake Veni Vidi account was great. 100%. It was fantastic. I just wanted to point out there are a lot of people out there that I assume thought it was the real account, and it was a parody account. It was quite funny though. So whoever was doing it, well done you. 2 5-figure pots here. Galfond betting pot on the 7 of spades. We'll keep an eye on both these tables. Between the 2 player tables, we have 40K. There's a raise from Actionfreak. Pot now 51. Galfond folds. Huge pot there on table 1 for Actionfreak. Actionfreak's going to raise there. Another raise from Galfond. We have a monster pot here. There's the call, 81,000. There's the river.
Yeah,
Galfond
Action
with
had
the
2
straight.
pair and a flush draw.
Galfond had what? Had a straight, right?
He had a straight, yeah. So for a moment there, that king on the river looked a bit scary because first I checked Action's hand and I saw, oh wow, it's, set on the river, but yeah.
No, but I mean, keep in mind, I've got 2 kids. I've got a lot of other things going on.
No, but
I'm spending about 45 minutes a day in the lab.
But I'm with you on this. I mean, everybody should go and even if you don't play poker, just go sign up for an At-Once training. There's a lot of good material out there. And
I disagree with you. I don't want everybody to do it. I only want the people to do it that aren't going to play against me. If you're going to play against me, don't. Okay.
Well, you're not playing. Dave. So you're safe.
Good point.
Everybody
Okay.
can tell.
Okay. Good point. You're right. Runchuks once again gets the win. 18,000 in there over table number 1. Galfond, well over 6 figures right now. That's 4 buy-ins already. Looking to make some of that back over on table number 1. He bets pot on the 8 of hearts river. Action on Phil. And he makes the call.
They both had a full house. One of those coolers again. You know, Actionfreak flopped the full house. Phil turned the full house, and I suppose a good decision by him not to raise, because it's unlikely that Actionfreak would have called.
I will say, when I was younger, I'm much better than I was, and that is absolutely. I owe a lot to people like Elliot Rowe, Tommy Angelo, Dr. Tricia Cardner, Jared Tendler. I've talked to as well. I owe a lot to them, but I will admit that in my earlier days when I lived in London and I played a lot of online poker, I broke my laptop one day, and that was the stupidest thing ever. Not only did I lose, but then I just felt like an idiot like 6 minutes later because I'm looking at my broken laptop thinking, what did I just do that for? How stupid am I? Now I have to go spend another now I have to go buy another laptop. How many of you have done that? What is the dumbest thing you've ever done, Runchuks? And I'll ask you guys in the chat. When you've been on tilt playing online poker, what is the stupidest thing you've ever done? 26,000 in shallow waters, 10,800 over on Deep Throat.
Yeah, let's see it play out, and then because you know what, actually, off the top of my head, I can't even think of anything stupid that I've done due to the downswing. All right, the
5-6.
the nuts for action there. Yeah, they both had a straight. Well, obviously, Phil didn't have the nut straight, just the 4-5. Like, my assumption is that right now he's just mixing it up and not limping because Phil played the second half of the session against Venny when Venny was employing the limping strategy. So perhaps Actionfreak is just making things a bit more difficult for Phil, getting out of the standard playbook, maybe playing slightly different than Phil expected him to play.
And how much of that do you think is kind of gamesmanship, in the sense of, you go in with a game plan, fully knowing that your opponent is kind of expecting A, so you decide, okay, well, if he's expecting this, I'm going to bring him that instead.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is poker. That's what you're supposed to do, right? Especially because this is not a one-off session, right? This is going to be a long challenge. So getting into your opponent's head as much as you can, that's part of the game.
Oh, wow, we got a big pot
on
here.
The right, by the way.
Yeah, 36,000 over on Deep Throat. 10-8 got there. Hearts missed. 6-4 got there. 7 of spades completes a lot of straights.
And 6-4, yeah.
All in here for Actionfreak. Pot is 48,000. There's the call. 6-4.
There's the 6-4
versus top set. Actionfreak had top set.
But yeah, the numbers are obviously huge, but it's nothing that either of the players is not accustomed to. I mean, Actionfreak obviously is playing in some pretty big games, so he's not going to be too upset or too influenced by a day like today, for example, right? And he's not going to be too upset about the run of cards that he's been getting, because let's face it, so far 5 pretty sick coolers all went Phil's way. So far, nothing big went Actionfreak's way in terms of setups.
Well, speaking of big, we might get something big here over Deep Throat. 27,000 in there. 10 of diamonds on the river. Aces good for Actionfreak. He wins himself a nice little pot. That's a question I have for you, and I don't know if you know the answer or not, but I know I was told during the Veni Vidi challenge, we were talking about Action Freak, and somebody had told me that he holds the lobby over even Veni Vidi.
Yeah, and what's interesting here is that, when we first watched the first challenge play out, right, we didn't have this experience of how these things can go. I mean, I speak for the viewers, and for majority of the viewers, that people were not expecting these huge swings. Somebody going over 1 million in the green and then dropping all of that back, and then it's getting close. Whereas it is to be expected in PLO. There's a lot of variance, and both of these players are really used to this. And now that we know, now that we have that experience from the previous challenge, I think it's going to be, we're going to be seeing these swings with different eyes, sort of with a different perspective. And we have a 4-bet pot on the left, by the way.
We do. Good catch there. Jack 10-7. Very wet board.
Yeah.
Straight draws, flush draws, all sorts of stuff going on here. 4-bet pot. Galfond is the 4-better. He checks it back. 5 of hearts on the turn. So these are the kind of boards where, I mean, if you have aces and you don't have clubs, what do you, I mean, are you just hating life on this kind of board?
Well, yeah, you're hating life, but the stack to pot ratio is so small that you can get a lot of hands in here. Considerations for checking here are obviously you need to protect your checking range. So, some of the straights, some of the sets, they need to check back, and that's quite standard there.
26,890 in the pot. Action on Action Freak. He bets 19-8. Pot is now 46-7. Galfond. What do you do with aces here?
Well, it really depends on which aces do you have here, but yeah. So basically, it really depends. There's no one answer here, but also, like, if we think about the check that Phil had, this is basically one of those boards, one of a few boards where the 4-better is gonna have to check a lot, and by I mean by a lot I mean like over 60% of the time, right? Phil's gonna be checking, so he's still sitting there with a lot of strong hands. And here you have it, your answer about aces, right? I'm not sure if obviously blocking the nut flush draw there doesn't work in Phil's favor. So these specific aces are really close, and but he blocked some other things as well, right? He had the 9 in his hand, but 2 blockers that he didn't really want to have, and he had them, were the king and the ace of clubs. Yeah, I suppose Phil could have bet the flop occasionally, but I don't think he would be betting with this specific hand all of the time. But, the considerations of having the nut flush blocker, having a king, having a 9, he blocks the nuts, he blocks some of the draws, and he doesn't block some of the, weaker hands that Action Freak can call with. But majority of the aces are obviously checking back here, and as I told you, like, basically majority of the range is checking back here. I would expect, like, probably we're talking 65% of the time Phil's going to be checking on this specific board. On many other boards, he's basically betting close to 100% of his hands.
I've got a
But
question for
that
you.
specific,
I have a question for you on that one, but I want to interrupt
right.
you for a second because we're shallow waters. We've got a big pot brewing, 26,000 in there. It's 11,000 back over to Action Freak. Board double paired. We've got a huge pot over at Deep Pockets. A raise here on the river. Galfond
Wow.
bet 10-8. The raise to 43. 2 monsters. Action Freak folds. Galfond folds. Action Freak sits out. Look like they're going to reset once again. By the way, the Bill Perkins Galfond challenge has not been put on hold. They may fire up sessions on off days. Not 100%, but it definitely could happen. I wasn't sure or not, but we've seen Galfond do that before. When Veni Vidi took a break, Galfond just did his own little challenge on the side. So we know Galfond loves this. We know he can play as much as possible. Galfond bets half pot on the queen of clubs as we look at shallow water. There's a call. Pot is now 21,500. A blank on the river. Ace Jack right now, the nuts. Both flush draws missed. Pot size bet here from Phil Galfond. Actionfreak taking his time with this decision. There's the call. Jack 9. Actionfreak had 2 pair.
Yeah, Action had 2 pair. He blocked the ace. Obviously, he blocked the nut straight, but he also had 2 spades. He had the nut flush draw, and he was blocking the second nut flush draw. So, you know, those 2 spades are crucial, but he still makes the call. And that's why Phil is playing these challenges, because I mean,
Of course, he loves it.
For many people, it seems crazy. Like you commit like over half a year of your life to challenges, but from day one, he was saying, "This is fun. I want to do this. I'm enjoying this." So you know, he's putting on the show, but at the same time, he's enjoying it tremendously. So it's great.
Yeah, Farah has echoed that thought process. She said, you know, Phil would play all day. You know, if it wasn't for a whole staff and he's got people working and everything like that, if Actionfreak said to him, "Hey, you want to play for another 4 hours?" Phil would be like, "Yep, sign up, let's go." And I think, you know, that's part of the reason why obviously he's put the work in. But the fact of the matter is, you know, he's obviously a really smart guy. 25,000 in the pot here. Board is paired. Hearts got there. That 6 of hearts, obviously a pivotal card. Pot size bet here from Galfond. Pot is 51,000. Actionfreak with 23,000 behind. So pot is about 48K, 23 to call. Actionfreak thinking about hero calling. And he does. And this time he's good. He's got the flush. Had 10-9 of hearts there, and Actionfreak wins a monster pot. 75,000 in there. 71 total, I should say.
Obviously, he's blocking the queen. And that is crucial for him because obviously when Phil is betting, if he's betting for value, he needs a queen. If he's betting as a bluff, very often he's betting with heart draw, right? So basically when that heart comes, most of the hands that Phil was semi-bluffing on the flop, they got there. And because Actionfreak is blocking the queen, sort of the hands that were actually betting for value on the flop, there are less of them in Phil's range. So that's why Action's decision was slightly tricky on the river because, you know, he has to try to find what bluffs does Phil really have.
$22,000 in the pot. Over at Deep Pockets. Actionfreak is all in. There's the call. By the way, we got a
We
4-bet
have a
pot.
4-bet pot. Yeah.
Yep.
And plus,
4-bet
it's
pot.
a 150 big blinds deep 4-bet pot. So
There's the call. Yep. These guys are super deep. 16,000 in there already. I want to ask you another question about that last hand. We'll get to that in a second, though.
yeah. All right.
Let's turn our attention
Phil's
to this
gonna
4-bet
Phil's
pot.
gonna pot here quite often, I would assume.
7-4 deuce, 2 hearts. And there
Yeah,
it
he
is.
does
There's
pot.
pot. How did you know that? Just based on the texture of the board? It
Yeah,
just
just
favors
based on
his
the
range?
texture on the board. Yeah, yeah. He's supposed to pot a lot. Like,
Oh,
first of all,
Actionfreak is going with it. There's the call. This pot is 96,000.
Oh wow, what a turn. But anyway,
Oh.
I mean, Action was in a great shape. You know, it was.
Action was crushing him, wasn't he? He had
it
bigger
was
hearts than
crushing,
him.
yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Bigger hearts, bigger pair.
95. These monotone boards are kind of interesting. Galfond seems to either like to attack those or, and again, it's a small sample size, but from what I saw in Benevides when he played Benevidi, was he doesn't really give up on those very easily.
Yeah, but you know, that one specifically was a different beast of a monotone board. It's not just a monotone board; it's a ace-high monotone board, disconnected otherwise in a not really disconnected. The 7-5 obviously connects pretty nicely, but not in the mid-range. And it's a 3-bet pot. So
Right.
overall, Phil is going to be c-betting probably close to 100% of the time on that board in that specific situation.
And is the sizing almost always going to be small on the monotone board?
Always small, yeah.
$21,800 in the pot. 6 of spades on the turn. I did not see the pre-flop action. Was this a 4-bet pot or just 3-bet?
I don't know. I'm just checking the menu, man. For food. Remember what you started?
Yeah, my bad. I'm sorry. I'm starving.
No,
like I said, I'm starving now
too. It's
too.
just really that time. I'm probably soon better off taking a tiny break for grabbing a snack. But yeah, I missed the action as well. Unfortunately, I've been checking the chat. I've been checking the replay. And...
I know it went check on the turn.
Mm-hmm.
Hearts get there. Action on Galfond. Moonlight Master tells us that Phil raised on the flop and then checked the turn. Now he's going to bet pot on the river. Pot is 43-7. Thanks, Moonlight Master.
An Actionfreak is thinking about it.
So this apparently was a 3-bet pot that Galfond check raised the flop with. Then it went check on the turn, and now Galfond is betting pot on the river.
Weird line.
This feels like a Galfond bluff to me.
I'm not sure. It's hard to find a bluff in this situation, to be honest. I'm leaning more towards he has it very often. He obviously is going to have a bluff.
We'll find out. He's got it. You're right. This is why you play PLO and I don't. Huge pot. My gosh. That was a monster. Thalo in the house. What's up, Thalo? Thalo likes Actionfreak's avatar. I concur.
Yeah, I wonder whose idea was it. Imagine Actionfreak actually said, "Hey, can you make me look like a vampire, please?
Well,
I have a little wand."
Is that a wand?
It's a wand. Yeah, he's a wizard, right? He's supposed to be representing the wizards of online poker.
I thought it was a knife in his right shoulder this whole time.
A knife in his right shoulder? Man, you're weird.
I just thought somebody had stabbed him.
It is a knife. I
thought somebody had stabbed him with a butter knife.
All right.
But it is a wand. You're right. That makes so much more sense.
But Nick is saying it's a knife. It's not a wand. It is a knife. It's
a knife. Well, there you go. Yeah. It's a character from 12 Angry Men. It is a knife, so I was right.
Man. Nice. Oh, right. Yeah, I see that character now. Of course, because that's basically his avatar. Of course, that's his avatar online. How did I not put two and two together?
That is fantastic. That's good stuff.
Shit.
Okay, but
That
then, okay,
probably
so we were
that,
both right and wrong because the knife is
yeah.
not in his shoulder. He's holding the knife, and it's not a wand. It is a
Yeah, but
knife. Okay.
you were way closer, and that this probably tells too much about me that I thought that this guy's a vampire holding a wizard wand. What am
I
I,
was gonna say
12?
where was the vampire thing? Vampire based on what? He doesn't have
I don't
teeth.
know. I don't know. I don't know. It's like I said, I'm seeing world through eyes of a 12-year-old Harry Potter fan or whatever that is.
Huge pot over at Shallow Waters. Galfond bet 5,900. Actionfreak raises. Galfond folds. Kratok says, yeah, this is a good point here. Given how skilled these players are, I think the biggest edge might be a mental one, honestly. I think that's well said. And I think that's the case, by the way, in a lot of poker these days. I think there's a lot of really, really good players out there that, from a technical perspective, they know how to play the game. They know the ins and the outs. They know, what they should be value betting in certain spots, what they should be checking in certain spots. They know how to stay balanced. What separates, the best from just the greats or the goods from the greats. I do think it's the mental part of the game. More on that in a second. Both tables have 11,000 in the pot. Diamonds aplenty on both tables as well. Board is paired though on Shallow Waters. Henry Kilbane in the chat. What's up, Henry? What's up, my man? Henry will be with us every Saturday here on the Galfond Challenge. Make sure you catch him. Certainly one of the rising stars in the poker commentary world. There's a bet from Galfond. There's a raise from Actionfreak. It's all of Galfond's chips if he wants to call.
Hey, Dave, I'm back.
Runchuks back. Galfond folds.
Like it. And I mean, we also have to think about that these guys are resetting the stacks slightly slower. So not immediately. We've seen some situations where they would play for like 10-15 minutes with 200 big blinds, so that can come into play as well.
Well, that and right now, I mean, obviously these players could make adjustments, but we have not seen either player limp the button yet.
True.
Galfond bets on this ace queen 4 2 spade board, gets raised, makes the call. Pot now just under 10,000. King of spades get there. Completes the flush, completes certainly the jack 10 straight. Spades are cheap. We've got 4 of them over at deep pockets as well. Actionfreak, after raising the flop, now bets pot on the turn. 19-7 in there. 9,800 to call. He makes the call. Pot now 30,000. 6 of hearts changes absolutely nothing. Pot size, bet. Another monster pot. What does Galfond do? He has not snap called.
And a huge pot as well on the right table.
Wow, there it is. Yep, 26-8 over there. Galfond bets pot on that one too. He makes the call.
Makes the call. Oh, wow.
Nut flush. And if this ends momentarily, I think both players can take a lot of good out of it. Obviously, anytime you can win, that's good. Galfond can feel that way. But Actionfreak, coming back about 100,000 euros from where he was just about a half hour ago, I think also can feel good about his session.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though I think they both probably don't keep an eye on the score while they're playing, because it's just, there is no upside to that.
No,
It's
I
just
think you're right.
distracting from what you're supposed to be focusing on. But later on, that still plays a big role. When one of the most interesting parts about Phil's comeback was how he handled the upswing. Now, a lot of people underestimate how difficult it is to actually do what he did in terms of remaining fully focused, remaining playing his best game or close to it while having all these good sessions.
Yeah, and he mentioned that. I mean, he even talked about it on Twitter in interviews and stuff. And he said, guys, this is not a movie. I'm not necessarily going to win this. And in fact, at this point, he was still down 80,000. He said, in fact, I'm an underdog. I'm a dog to win this right now. Big pot here. Actionfreak bets pot on the 3 of diamonds. 32,700 in there. Galfond in the tank. But I think you're spot on, and I mentioned it earlier. I think staying level-headed when you're winning nonstop is also really important. There's the call.
No.
Ace 6, full house for Actionfreak, and another big pot. And by the way, they are over 200 big blinds deep on deep pockets. The schedule for this is they play Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. They take Wednesdays and Sundays off.
They're really tempting us there on the table on the right, on the deep pockets.
For sure.
A lot of 3-bet pots, a lot of situations where we could see a huge pot eventually.
I want to congratulate Personal Gravy, who won the Run It Once Poker Twitter giveaway and now has access to Vision. Vision training over at Run It Once Poker for a month. Congratulations, Personal Gravy. We'll have more giveaways, I'm sure, on Thursday. 11-2 in the pot already. We're on the turn.
Yeah, and the turn brought some straights, plus some draws. So Actionfreak can't really get away from a strong hand here because, just because the straights came doesn't mean he has to go into the folding mode. But most likely, this is a good card for seeing a bigger pot.
Well,
and we do see a call. Well, now a diamond comes.
22,400 in there.
And this
Actionfreak
can
checks.
escalate.
By the way, Actionfreak only down 36,000. If this escalates, like you said, Galfond could theoretically be even at the end of this hand. He does bet half pot. Pot is 33,000 over to Actionfreak.
Interesting choice of bet size. I mean, it doesn't allow Actionfreak to go pot size all in.
There's the
He makes the
call.
call.
Diamonds.
Oh,
Jack 6 of
nice.
diamonds. Huge pot for Galfond. Farah says you can go night-night if you want, Runchuks.
That's
I think she's concerned about you. Go put your jammies on, big guy.
Nah, I'm okay.
I can read a poem to you if it makes you feel better.
You think that's gonna help, really?
Oh, I have some bedtime poetry if you'd like.
Okay. Nah.
Galfond betting small on this Jack of Diamonds river over at Shallow Waters. 930 hands into today's session. Again, you can bet on the Galfond Challenge. Poker Shares, one of the sponsors here. At one point during the Veni Vidi match, you could have actually gotten 30-1 on Phil. That would have been fun, huh?
Yeah.
I did, by the way, I did.
Galfond betting small. I also thought that's going to be poetry because you said, well, yeah, poetry, and then you went into Galfond betting small. Oh, that's what I was expecting. Was it?
I can,
Was it
you
quite?
know, if you want, we can continue when they're done playing. We can do another hour of like Tuchman haiku era, Tuchman haiku hour. How's that?
Oh wow, that sounds
I don't think anybody wants that.
intriguing. I
It's the
mean,
haiku hour.
I still
Pot
have
size
my
bet here
bottle
from
of gin
Galfond.
left from yesterday, so oh, half of it anyway. So let's go for it. Yeah, hi, cool,
Hold that thought.
awesome.
Pot size bet here from Phil Galfond over at Deep Pockets. King of Spades on the river. Action on the freak. He makes the call. He's good. 2 pair.
Hmm.
And once
Folks
again,
blocking.
Actionfreak up to 75,000. Stacks are massive. You said it right. Tough spot. I mean, just absolutely massive. Actionfreak, by the way, now down under a buy-in, I believe.
Yeah, that's probably true. And well, this is gonna happen a lot with these 1,000 hand sessions. If both players are playing their best, quite often we would see, it level out at some point.
Pappy Van Winkle. Stapes for sure sounds the horn at 3 in the morning when he's toasted. I could see that. 26,800 in there. Over on Shallow Waters. Spades get there and the board pairs. Galfond with just about 17,000. Actionfreak. Pot size bet. It's about 43,000 in there. 16.9 the call. Galfond does not make the call. Actionfreak now has 208,000 in front of himself on Shallow Waters. Look at this. Galfond only up 13,000 right now. Overall, by the way, Galfond is up 2,400. $12,400 in the pot over on Deep Pockets. And they are deep over there. 300 big blinds. More than 300 big blinds right now. Look at this. So much for resetting, right?
Yeah, this creates an interesting dynamic. It allows us to root for something that we didn't have a chance to root for before in the
Yeah.
previous challenge. And within one session, you're going to have these micro situations where you basically, towards the end of the session, if they stop resetting towards the end of the session and we keep seeing these things, it adds a certain element of excitement.
Yeah, no
So it's
doubt.
good to see. Definitely
Said
good to
well.
see.
I would imagine that if they were to reset now, they would just call it a day. By the way, 23,000 in the pot over on Shallow Waters. Actionfreak was the one who was betting. Now the club gets there. Galfond does not bet, though. He checks. Actionfreak on the button to act. He moves all in. Bets pot. I know he can't move all in, guys. But he bets more than Galfond has. Pot is about 41,000, 18,000 the call. Galfond does not call. Actionfreak might be ahead today.
Yeah, somebody's saying in the chat that Phil's very used to playing deep in Vegas. and the biggest tables online are 200 big blinds deep. I don't think that's really true. I mean, Actionfreak is playing a lot of heads-up poker. You know, obviously the stacks get really deep there, and a lot of the games that Phil is playing, they're actually capped. They might be sitting with doesn't matter how much they're sitting with, 2 million or whatever, but it's capped to 40 big blinds, and a good game. So they
Yep,
finished right on our mark.
and I'm going to go on a limb and say the only reason Galfond's even quitting is because he's just he's thinking about the staff at Run It Once Poker. They probably would have played for the 2 hours knowing these guys.
It's very possible, yeah, very possible.
So, but what a session it's been. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Runchuks, man, honestly, your analysis, insight, sense of humor, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a lot of fun.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for having me, or having me join you. A lot of fun. I learned a lot about you, about your weird shit, and it enriched my life in many ways. And the challenge itself, the little swing that we saw today, it's just so exciting, and I'm really looking forward to the future sessions. This seems like it's going to be an amazing challenge.
Well, it looks like Phil Galfond is going to skip the post-session interview. I want to thank all of you for joining us. We had a great turnout. 3,000 of you came out and watched Actionfreak and Phil Galfond. What a roller coaster ride it was. They played over 1,000 hands when it was all said and done. Phil Galfond won himself about 5,000 euros. The total right now has Actionfreak ahead by about 6,000. So really almost nothing in it, as we're about, say, 7.5% of the way through this challenge. Players are taking tomorrow off. They are back at it Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. For Run It Once, Nick, for Runchuks, for everybody at Run It Once Poker, thank you. I'm David Tuchman. Goodbye and good night.
Good night.